1960 here in the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And it was the week after the first movement in Greensboro, North Carolina, and the first victory that was accomplished in desegregating lunch counters took place in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. As I did some more research, he has a lot of information in the library in Greensboro, North Carolina, about his efforts. So I like to say, sit back, relax, and let's listen to Mr. Matthews give us his story, because it's important history, it's valuable history, and we're honored to have someone who lived such a great history and still is present among us today to talk about it, not only in retrospect, but also with understanding. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our guest, Mr. Carl Matthews. Carl, thanks for coming.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Last week we were discussing your finishing college, the meeting, not being able to keep your job at the recreation center as a lifeguard, not being able to get a job in the school system. So let's go from there.
All right, we were trying to establish why I am the way I am. You know, you started back bringing up some important things in my childhood. But there are some memories inside of my head that will not go away. And you know, a man is only the sum total of all of his experiences.
Right.
I'd like to go back to a trip that my mother, my grandmother, and myself, we made to Roxborough. My little daughter here on camera, it's wonderful to see her.
Yes, sir.
But she had just been born, Cornelia Webster, Cornelia Matthews Webster. She'd just been born, and we were coming from Roxborough. And we had to go through Durham. And as we came through Durham, the bus had gotten filled. And my mother and my grandmother and myself, we were seated right at the line. All black people have to sit behind the line, but we were right there on the borderline.
This is the Greyhound bus?
The Greyhound bus.
Okay.
So the driver came back and told us that somebody would have to get off of the bus because there were a couple of white people that wanted to ride this bus. Mm-hmm. This is one of my first experiences on hand with blatant segregation. So he asked me to move. And of course, I was traveling with my mother and my grandmother. She always tries to keep me quiet. And she says, we are not moving anywhere. She says, I've paid for my ticket and we're coming through on this bus. We have our seats and we are not moving. So he said, somebody's going to have to get off of this bus. So the people behind us, a man and his woman, got off the bus, and two white people got on the bus. Well, a third one got on the bus also, but there was an empty seat beside me. And these two black people got off the bus, and the white people took their seat. And the scene that stayed in my mind for years is as the bus was pulling out of the terminal, I looked out the window, and here this black man is standing with his woman, and they've had to give up their seats. They were treated less than dogs.
What year was this, Carl?
This was in I think about 1950. When is your birthday, baby? 1951? Was in 1951, because she'd just been born. Mm-hmm. And my mother grumbled about it, and she grumbled at the bus driver, and I was wondering when she gonna stop talking about it. But she's grumbling today. She grumbles now about, hey, you think we gonna give up our seats and we paid our fare, but we didn't get off the bus. See, she has a lot of spice in her. I guess you say the fruit don't fall too far from the trees.
Yes, sir. That's
You know what I'm saying?
right. That's right.
So this is one incident that really started me to thinking serious. There was another incident. I was working on
now,
a little...
had you finished college by then? Or?
Yes, I had finished college. This is
and
the
this
last...
was before the incident you spoke on last week. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this was before. But after the swimming pool incident, I had gotten a little job with a construction company, just pushing the wheelbarrow and so forth. But suddenly, bip, I heard this and I turned around and a black guy had gotten knocked down by a white man on the job. And you know, in the confusion, everybody was asking questions and he was rubbing his knuckles, you know? And the black guy was on the ground and he said, nobody addresses me without putting a hound on my name. Now I saw this and I wondered in my mind.
20 years old.
Right.
Hold still, Carl. We have a caller. Go ahead, caller. Speak up. Thank you very much. Speak up, caller. Okay, no caller. Go ahead.
Okay. I thought in my mind that if this man had hit the wrong black person for not putting a handle on his name, he wouldn't have been worried about his knuckles.
Now, when you say handle, does that mean we're supposed to say mister?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, when you talk to a white man in those days, many of them wanted you to say mister. And if
Okay.
you didn't put mister before some of them's name, they became very aggravated.
Hostile.
You know? Okay, then the next incident, I got a job at McLean Trucking Company. And the way that I carried myself on the dock, the white men on the dock elected me shop steward to say, we want you to be spokesman for us.
Okay.
The first time a black had ever been elected shop steward for the Teamsters Union. And the blacks elected me shop steward. One incident that happened in my presence, I was beginning to come out of this shell that I was in because I was beginning to be very outward.
A lot of the experiences was making all of this dawn on you because, as you said, in your childhood, none of this had dawned on you.
That's correct,
Okay.
yes. But now that I was out into the world and out of the black community and seeing more. Now, back to McLean Trucking Company.
Okay.
On this job, I was the shop steward. One day, one of the white foremen told the black guy on the job, don't look at me in my eyes when I'm speaking to you. And I happened to be standing right beside this fella. And I said, what do you mean nobody look you in the eye? And he says, well, this is not between you and I. This is between me and this fella. I won't name him. This is between me and him. I said, no, it's not between you and him. It's between you and him and I. What do you mean don't look you in the eye? What are you supposed to be, a god or something? You know, I'll look you in the eye.
Yes.
Why can't he look you in the eye?
We got a caller. Caller, please speak up. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I would like to ask you. He said he was he was speaking for the black people on a union or something. He said he was speaking. They voted him as being a leader or what for the union or what to speak out for the other people who didn't want to speak out at that time.
Carl, you want to answer that?
Sure. The shop steward is the man who receives all the grievances from white and black and take the grievances to the company. He represents the union. So the whites elected me to be their shop steward.
All right.
So I was the spokesman for everybody who worked on the dock.
Did you make any changes?
Sure, I'm telling you about a change that I made now.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
When this man addressed this black worker and told him not to look him in the eyes. So I wanted to make it perfectly clear to him that he wasn't above looking in the eyes because I look every man in the eye. I haven't seen one yet that I don't look in the eye. So I looked him in the eye and asked him what was the problem.
And this was 51.
This was in 51, maybe the latter part of 51 or in 52.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caller, thank you for
Thank you.
calling, and stay tuned. Now, going into 52. This is okay.
But I'd like to finish this little
Yes, sir.
incident.
Go ahead.
The foreman walked away from us. He said, hey, just forget it. And he walked away from us. And after the foreman walked away from us, my black brother told me, say, hey, man, you shouldn't have done that because the man is going to make it hard on me. I said, golly, you know, how's the man going to make it hard on you? And I'm the one who's speaking up. I'm speaking up for you. How is he going to make it hard on you? So it's just the attitudes, the fear that was on the dock at that particular time. Okay.
So now coming out of college, coming out of the recreation center situation, coming into the bus situation, then coming into McLean Trucking Company, were you beginning to become more dissatisfied about everything with respect to what you were experiencing at that time? We have a caller. Go ahead, caller. Thank you for calling.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Fine, and you?
Fine. I'd like to talk to the gentleman sitting beside you. What's his name again?
His name is Carl Matthews.
How you doing, Mr. Matthews?
Fine, sir. How are you?
Good. I'm glad you're on the Access channel. It's a great place to view everybody. I'd like to ask you a question about something. I'm a Generation X person, I guess, in my mid-20s. And, you know, when I grew up a lot, I feel as though on racism, not necessarily, yeah, I guess racism. When you were brought up, I guess there was a lot of discrimination towards black people and stuff like that. But I feel as though as a Generation X people, the way that I was growing up among, we had, you know, I went to school with black people, white people, black people, and it was growing up. I believe that with my generation, racism is going to grow out of it. I believe it's a time span within the next 20 years. There will be no such thing as racism. What are your views on today's youth growing up being in the same workplace with white people and black people where there's no discrimination anymore? You know, when you were talking about your McLean thing, when you were brought up and you had to look people in the eye, I don't think there's going to be any more of that anymore. What are your views on that?
Caller, thank you. Hang up and he'll answer you, please, so we can get other callers in. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Carl.
I don't think it will ever be in the future the way that it was in the past. But we must know what had happened in the past in order to gauge our future. I'm a part of history. I don't know what will happen tomorrow. I don't know what will happen next year. But I do know what happened in the past, and black people and black youth should know what has happened in the past.
Carl, we got another caller. Go ahead, caller. Please speak up.
Hello. I am learning about the things that did happen because we was fused of sin. We don't have no problem with whites, and we don't, you know, blacks don't have no problem. We can work together if they give us a chance in this economic world.
Okay, young lady, this is not a program that's dealing with black and white issues. I'm not addressing that. I'm addressing the history, and I'd like for you to just listen to the history and don't put your personal priorities first. Let's listen to the history, and there's an answer to a lot of our problems in the history. So now, Carl, you were becoming dissatisfied. This is what I'm gathering. Now, were you becoming more dissatisfied with the Caucasian authority in the land, or were you becoming more dissatisfied with the action of your own people toward you? What was creating your dissatisfaction? Because it seems you were getting it from both sides.
That's correct.
Yes.
I think my greatest dissatisfaction came from the way that we allowed other people to treat us. Because I didn't allow people to treat me in that fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that any of us should have allowed people to treat us in that fashion. The greatest thing that anyone could hold over your head is that if you don't belly up, you'll lose your job. Well, if none of us bellied up, none of us would lose our jobs because we wouldn't have anybody to pick up the garbage and to sweep the floors and to wash the dishes in the kitchen. So they wouldn't fire all of us.
We were brought over here to work.
That's why we were brought here.
Call,
Correct.
we got another call. Go ahead, caller. Thank you very much. Speak
Yes,
up,
my name
please.
is, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Les Spoon. I'm calling from Winston-Salem. I am a new American, although I've been here 25 years. I'm a citizen. And I'd like to say to Mr. Carl Matthews, I think you're completely correct. Nobody should ever forget what people went through to achieve where they're at now. I think you're doing a wonderful job, and continue. That's the end of my message.
Thank you very much, caller. Have a good day. Ladies and gentlemen, before we run out of time, I want to mention these people. For 107 days, Mr. Matthews and these people, who I'm going to call their names, made it possible, after their sacrifices, for us to have desegregated lunch counters as we have today. The first 3 days, Mr. Matthews was all alone, by himself. But here's some people that some of them are still alive and some of them have passed. But I want you to remember, anytime you see these people, just thank them. Mr. Royal Joe Abbott, Mr. J.C. Best, Donald C. Bradley, William Andrew Bright, Miss Jeanette Brooks, Jake Brown, Pauline Boston, Lafayette Cook Jr., Jefferson Diggs III, Everett Dudley, Bruce Gaither, Aljamina Giles, Ulysses Green, Andrew Hughes, Dr. F.W. Jackson, Victor Johnson Jr., Asha Rawson, Dolores Reeves, Pat Tillman, Gwendolyn Thomas, and Miss Georgia Ware. And there were also some students from Wake Forest University at that time, which was segregated, who also participated to bring about the success of the sit-in movement here in Winston-Salem. Mr. Donald Bailey, Joe Brown Chandler, Linda Cohen, Margaret Dutton, Linda Guy, Anthony Johnson, William Stevens, Paul Watson, George Williamson, and Jerry B. Wilson. So if you know any of these people, thank them for their efforts if you ever see them. Now, you say I have a caller, sir? Okay. Now, was your dissatisfaction equally with your own as well as with the Caucasian people? Was it both kind of bothering you?
Well, I was angry because of the way that we were being treated.
Okay.
I was angry because of the way that we allowed somebody to treat us in this fashion. I would like for just a moment
Go ahead.
to go back to these people
Okay.
and to say this. These were some of the strongest minded people that I have ever met in my life. In 1960, I had no love lost for white people. No love lost for white people. But when we were out in the street and these students from Wake Forest came to us and said, we'll go to jail with you, we'll go to hell with you, we will die with you, it doesn't matter, until you're free, we're not free. And my mind went through a complete renaissance as far as white people are concerned. I don't judge a person now by the color of their skin. I judge them by what's inside and what comes from inside to the outside. Mm-hmm. Because these people were willing, they were free.
Exactly.
And Wake Forest College voted never to desegregate their school.
That same year, 1960.
That same year, to never desegregate
Majority
their school.
of the student
right.
vote.
But those students said, regardless, and Wake Forest, you will never have any better. Never in the history of your college or your university will you have people who are stronger minded and people who are more freedom orientated than these people who are named on this paper. Mm-hmm. So I want to give thanks to these people wherever they are and whatever they're doing.
Okay.
Now back to your question. I hated to
leaving the experience at McLean, being shop steward, the impact that the sit-in movement had on you in Greensboro that first week, what kind of impact did it have on you? Now, you weren't thinking about any desegregated lunch counters or anything at that time. You were just working. And the basic things that you were dealing with were the segregation policies and then the fear and resentment of you from your own kind.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, when the sit-in movement was launched in Greensboro, from day one, I was so happy and I was so proud to know that there were some other people who were thinking the way that I was thinking, but who had the guts to act on it. I was overjoyed inside, but what I heard from the black community distressed me. The feedback that I heard from the black community was something that I would hate to repeat, but it is history and it needs to be repeated.
Repeated.
You understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Let's hear it. Well,
Blacks in
we
the
already
community,
know they were fearful
yeah,
of losing their jobs. But that's, excuse me, that's still a problem.
Yes.
But we want to address that. Just go through it from 1960.
But blacks in the community, see, I'm making up my mind to do what these four gentlemen had done. And as I travel through the black community just on my everyday ventures to work and to different places, I would hear people say, man, what's wrong with them niggas over there in Greensboro? They crazy? You understand?
Wait a minute, Carl, we got a phone call. Go ahead, caller. Thank you very much for calling. Speak up, please.
Hello.
Hello, how are you today?
Fine. How are you today? I just wanted to have a general comment. I think it's very important to have that kind of historical perspective, but I was a little distressed at the call from the 25-year-old, 25 to 30-year-olds that think that they will not have to face the same thing. They are facing it, but it's so sophisticated now. They will have to now process it not with the eyes and with these. They're going to have to do it with their intellect. And that's why education and being universal is so important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comment, and we hope you stay tuned with the program. Now, that distress that came upon you, at any time, did you have a thought in the back of your mind that maybe you were special? With all that resentment that you received from your own kind at that time?
I never thought that I was special, but I've always thought that I was blessed.
That's special.
Yes. But in the sense of being special.
Yes, sir. I understand. You know, because it ended up you were alone.
Sure.
And you were attacked. And you were opposed, in some cases, as you say in your book, by those who loved you. And I know that hurts.
Yes, it does.
But deep down inside, you could not let that go. You had to act on it.
I could not turn that monster loose.
Yes, sir.
See, if you wound the monster, any kind of monster, you got to track it down and kill it. We had wounded the monster, segregation, and we couldn't let it go. We had to track it down and kill it. If we didn't track it down and kill it, it'd turn around and track us down and kill us. There might have been 100 years before anybody ever decided to sit down again if the establishment had gotten their breath behind the sit-in movement.
Yes, sir. And the reason it was successful here in Winston-Salem is because there was no violence. You didn't throw in the towel. It's the first victory throughout the South. And it was probably greater opposition from the black people than anywhere else, I'm thinking, as I was reading.
So true.